Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope you're having a great day today. And we'll give a shout out to all our brothers and sisters down in Texas that are recovering from hurricane slash tropical storm Nicholas. We hope you're doing well. Anyone else is having any situations with weather, I sympathize with you, and I hope that you're doing well. Today's show, brothers and sisters, is something we all talk about, but we talk around. We talk about money, but sometimes we don't talk about the philosophical implications of money in terms of being part of a world system. You know, I always remember one of my mentors that said, when the slaves came out of the plantation, they said the masters didn't teach them about making money. They taught them about how you accrue debt. And I do believe that. I do believe that. But I also believe that we are educated people. And if we do our research, we do our due diligence, we will find opportunities to engage in certain aspects of money, finance, and things. And that leads me to the topic of the day, which is something that came from the 1992 presidential election. Then Governor Bill Clinton was run against President George Bush, and James Carville said something that it resonates. Now, a lot of people don't like it. It sounds kind of harsh, but in that particular election, um, he said, and it resonates a lot of times when we're talking about current times, it's the economy, stupid. Not talking about people being stupid, but it's the economy, stupid, meaning that over time, a lot of times and oftentimes, we just don't understand how much economic pressures, economic decisions really affect us. I'm going to bring on a clip from a man. I've read his books. His name is Paul Krugman. He's a Nobel Peace Prize laureate for economics. When we had the great crash, great housing crash, I picked up his books uh, about depression economics, getting out of depression. He talked about the TARP program, the Toxic Asset Relief Program that Barack Obama was putting out. And, he was a new president, and Barack Obama was worried about the Republicans and da 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 and trying to make everybody happy. And he was the one guy that said it's not the amount of money that Barack Obama was asking for at the time. He was saying the amount of money that he's asking for is not enough. And when he said it was not enough, it hit me that, we are in a situation where a lot of times we ask for scenario money, not understanding that economics is wide and expansive. We live in a global economy. Sometimes we don't understand what a global economy means. We don't understand that a store in Main Street, Tennessee, someplace can connect and do great business for a place over in Wuhan or a place over in Indonesia. And in those spaces, brothers and sisters, we sometimes relegate ourselves to small thinking. I'm going to tell you that I was an economist. I didn't study economy in school. What I studied outside of school in relationship to the economy was why are people poor? What leads people to have generational poverty as opposed to generational wealth? And I've always concerned myself with that. Is it the pricing of materials? It is, why do we have a minimum wage? I was talking about that. Why do we have a minimum wage whereby if you allow people a price point that you can price point out, you can have a price point for people who don't have a certain amount of skills, and those people will settle for that price point thinking that I don't have the skills, this is all I'm available for. And you can't count on corporations to be goodwill institutions, things like that. They are set up to make money. So today I wanted to talk about the economy. I want to say it's the economy, stupid. Even with COVID, we're talking about the economy, not as much. Last year's election, we talked about COVID, we talked about, but it was the economy. I have no doubt, brothers and sisters, if we were not dealing with a pandemic last year, we were probably looking at the second term of Donald J. Trump. Why? Because the economy was doing really well at the beginning of 2020. He'd hung his hat on it. You can't find politicians that run in presidential elections, in midterm elections, that don't do well when the economy is doing well. It's been known that Political parties were mailing in knowing that we can't beat the economy. We're talking about the pocketbook and the wallet economy. When you look in your money, in your pocketbook or your money or your ledger, your online banking, and you realize that I'm doing very well because of policies, perceived or real or not, policies that allow me to go out and get more for my money or allow me opportunities to go out and get more money and thus be a much more integrated partner with the economy. So, listen, we're going to come back. I think we're going to have a great show, inshallah. I'm going to share some of my thoughts. I hope that you share some of yours. This is not one of those weird shows, but I think this is a show that can have a lot of benefit. So, I'm Preacher Moss. This is SOS. We're talking about it's the economy, stupid. We'll be right back on the Shout Out Show.
I called you because I just don't know what else to do.
Imagine if there wasn't an olive branch. And we're back. Thank you, Sister Tana. That was flawless. Got to give it up to Sister Tana on the back with all the transitions. You know, we're trying to get better, brothers and sisters. We are trying to get better. Let me tell you where this conversation starts. This conversation started when I was about 7 years old. My big brother Rick and I were going someplace, and you got to imagine we're kids. We're 7, 8 years old. Our big trip would be to a place called Convenience. It was called Convenience Market. We used to just call the place Convenience. And we would go to this place, and it was a big trip because you would walk past the school. You have to cross the street, you know what I'm saying, or ride your bike. And one time we went into a store, and it was the first time someone ever told me the aspects of a 2-for-1. So at a really, really young age, I had to do math to figure out whether the deal being presented to me was an actual really good deal. You know, because when you're young, you just grab stuff. If you just hope that when you put your stuff on the counter, it doesn't cost more than what you have in your pocket. And this person at Convenience said, when I bought one, he said, "Why don't you get another one?" And I'm like, "Well, I only want one." And, you don't want to explain to your parents that you burned up your money. I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, if you buy two," he said, I'll give you one free." And I said, "What?" He said, "If you buy two, then I'll give you one free." Now, 7, 8 years old, all you heard was free, right? That's all you heard. And for the first time in my life, I actually said, "Well, wait a minute. What's the actual cost of if I buy one and I buy two and you're going to give me the third one?" It's like, does it really balance out? And basically, I found out that he was trying to rip me off, that he had marked up the price, that you bought one and exaggerate. And shout out to my brother Rick, because he remembered the last time we were here, that soda cost this amount. And that's because Rick didn't have enough money for the soda. He said, "No." He said, "No." He said, "Little brother, it costs this amount of money." And it was a mark of about 20, 25 cents. So I really wasn't getting a deal, brothers and sisters. And I thought to myself, that's dishonest. But then I thought to myself, I said, this is how they do business. There's nothing illegal about it. It really has to do with, are you willing to do your due diligence in terms of the products, but also on the other side, profit. And from that point on, I realized that the world works on profit, but I also understood that it was a part of the economy, that profit is a part of the vocabulary when you're talking about business and finance. And what was really, really interesting is that for kids my age, we grew up learning consumption, but we didn't understand market share. We didn't fully understand. And I'm saying this, brothers and sisters, I'm 54 years old, but I'm talking about up until 16, 17, 18 years old. We didn't take those courses. And it reminded me of what my mentor said. When we came out, we were taught about debt, right? We weren't talking about managing money. Like, for example, brothers and sisters, in world economics, most countries default on sovereign debt. They borrow money, they can't pay it back. And normally you say, ooh, Visa's going to be calling you. Oh, they're going to repossess your country. No, they're not going to repossess the country. It's sovereign debt. Literally, what they do is they renegotiate or repackage the debt. I didn't know what this meant till I was a comic, struggling comic in California, and I had a credit card and it was killing me. And I was making enough payments and everything, but that interest was bam, every month, bam, every month. And someone said, you know, you can negotiate your interest rate with the credit card company. I said, word? He said, yeah. He said, how long you been? I said, been paying, da da da, just doesn't go down. He said, man, call those folks. And I called the people and I literally threatened them. And I said, listen, if I don't get what I'm looking for, I literally said, I'm at this percent. It was like, I don't know, 20%. I said, I need a better rate. And I literally said, I need you to make a business decision for both of us. I need a better rate. And you know what, brothers and sisters? I went from 20 some percent all the way down to 7.4. And I sat here going, wait a minute. I'm in my 20s, late 20s, and I'm figuring out this is the way the world works. Like if you open your mouth and talk about economics and finance, people will talk to you. Of course, you have to take some time to learn the language, but people talk to you. Like when we had the housing crisis, you know what the problem was, brothers and sisters? Outside of these algorithms and CDOs, collateralized debt obligations that nobody knows, these mathematical algorithms and banks doing dishonest things. You know what I learned, brothers and sisters? That banks talk to banks. And the biggest problem with the housing crisis is that banks stop loaning money to banks. It's called the Libor rate. Not liberate, but Libor, Libor rate. And I heard about it, but it didn't really come into play until we had the housing crisis. And said, wait a minute, man, this stuff is amazing. And I thought about my people. I thought about Black people. I thought about Latinos. I thought about Muslim. I thought about people that struggle. And we listen to Good Times like it's a theme song, like we ain't going to get out of it so we can be happy. And I felt this thing. I said, man, how disruptive could we be as an entity, as a people, as a culture, if we spend a little bit more time understanding economics? We're always on the buy side of things. We're on the consumption side of things, but not on the producer side of things. We're not in the consulting businesses. We're not in the soft intelligence businesses. Do you know the soft intelligence business is a $1 billion business, cybersecurity, things like that? But we're not in it, brothers and sisters. So I want to talk about this whole thing about economics. Now, I'm going to give you an example. The guy I mentioned earlier, Paul Krugman, ironically, I met him at a layover in Charlotte International Airport. I read two of his books, and I remember I walked up to the guy, and he was eating some kind of food. And I said, you're Paul Krugman. He said, yeah. I said, doesn't matter who I am. I said, I really appreciate the way you took some time to write your book so that we can. And he's looking at me like, you're Black, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm talking to you too. I'm talking to you about economics. I read your damn book. Now I'm talking to you about economics. And I asked him some questions about the upcoming elections and how he thought. And it was a really pleasant conversation, but you could tell he wasn't used to that. Now, before we get into this video and start talking about economics, let's talk about the economics of the shout out show, the people that make it go, our currency, our viable assets. Let's get a shout out show family, the soldiers up. Who we got here today? Of course, we got Sister Ree. Sister Ree is dealing with economics with her catering business, out there making choices of food choices. Even Sister Ree is making food choices. I know when you buy 5 chickens now, you be like, how can I cut that chicken up to 15 chickens? I know that's what you're doing right now. You're in the economics, Sister Reed. Portion control. That's right. I'm not mad at you. Glad to see you on the show. Make sure you holler at us before you go on vacation. Don't spend all that money in one place. All right. Next up, my little brother, Johnny L. Thomas, JT. Well, JT and I have talked about economics all the time. You know, it's funny. I didn't really talk about economics till I realized there's a reason why I didn't have money. Or enough money. So, and shout out to Paul Krugman about understanding money, you know, because as I got older, I talked to people and this is helpful. JT, thank you for coming on the show. Brother, you know what I'm going to talk about on this show, so feel free to jump in. My main man, Altaf Rashid, our Canadian ambassador. Thank you for coming to the show, brother. Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Make sure the quality of the show is going on good on both sides of the border. Brother Altaf. Next up, Sister Ike, all the way from Indonesia. Sister Ike is on here. Hope she's going to get some information. Sister Ike is an entrepreneur too. I guess we got the right people in the building today. Alhamdulillah. Next up, Fight the Power Word. Now, my main man, Elijah. I know Elijah's going to jump in on this because I'm going to show this clip just about people talking about inflation and how we think about inflation. Like a lot of times we do budgets. I never used to do this before. I'm being honest. When I would put out a budget for a year, you know what I wouldn't do? I wouldn't put in an inflation factor. Like every budget, you have to put in an inflation factor. I didn't realize that till I had a job as director of youth programs at the Reston Community Center, and I had to put a budget in and then ratio, and I got everything wrong with the budget because I didn't put in inflation factors. And I was saying, what is that? That said, I mean, it has to be elasticity in pricing. You're not pricing your product. So this is June, by the time you get to December, the price of the product might have gone up. So it's that range. So I was like, this is pretty amazing stuff. What's going on, brother? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The world economic literally means the management of a household. Is it the world or the word? The word economic, I think, okay, I said the world. I'm sorry, Elijah, I can't see. The word economic literally means the management of a household. He's 100% correct. He is 100% correct. I don't think a lot of people know that, Elijah. Thanks so much for putting on. That's my main man, Fight the Power Word. So I'm going to throw this up. I'm going to give a shout out. Of course, Sister Tana. Sister Tana is her own businesswoman as opposed to coming here and being the consultant producer on the show. So we're going to get to this thing. Is the economy stupid? I'm not calling anybody stupid. You know, this is from James Carville. When it came out, it was shocking. But a lot of people are like, yeah, it is the economy. Stupid. When you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this little piece out. This is, like I say, economist Paul Krugman. Now, a lot of people don't like Paul Krugman. He said some wild stuff. He said the internet wouldn't have a lot of impact. He was wrong on that one. But everybody doesn't get it right. But I think for this one right here, I think he got it right. Now, they're talking about the upcoming budget that Biden is trying to pass. And people are really gagging over this whole thing of, $3.5 trillion. Watch how he breaks it down, because a lot of times on television and the news and in politics in particular, people don't tell you that that money is spread out over a period of time. You're not going to pay $3.5 trillion right now, and you're not going to get the money back right now. So let me roll this one. Take a look. Let me know what you think. I'm going to bring it up right now.
Joining me now is Nobel laureate, New York Times columnist and distinguished professor of economics, Paul Krugman. Paul, thanks so much for coming back on the show. You're one of the economists pushing back against inflation concerns. You said in a tweet, do the math. GDP will be about 300 trillion over the next decade. 3.5 trillion, partially paid for with tax hikes, isn't an inflation threat. Why then does that remain a talking point when it comes to this bill, one that even Democrats like Manchin and Sinema buy into?
Well, it's an easy point, and people. There's something about inflation that makes people go kind of lose their sense of proportion. They start to go wild about suddenly it's going to be 1979 again, and it's just they lose their proportion. But I think what is probably worth saying is that I don't think senators. It depends who. I mean, but I'm sure that many senators really haven't done the math. They don't have a sense of 3.5 trillion is a lot of money. Sounds like it must be a really big deal on every front. And to have the perspective to say, yeah, but we're talking about doing that in an economy that's going to produce around $300 trillion worth of stuff over the next decade, during which the money will be spent. That they just don't know that. And they're choosing not to. But I think there's some genuine ignorance. They really don't understand that this is not a big deal. And they're also, the bit about debt means that, look, I don't actually think in the end the Biden proposals will be fully paid for with taxes. One way or another, there will be some smoke and mirrors, but they will be largely paid for. And if you're going to largely pay for it, then even the tiny inflationary pressure that we might be talking about goes away. I mean, if we pay for childcare with taxes on the wealthy, then the economy as a whole spends more on childcare and spends less on super yachts and helicopters to the Hamptons. And overall, it's not inflationary at all.
It sounds as if some of these senators, I know you teach economics for a living, could do with a lesson in macroeconomics. It's amazing how so many of our top leaders, elected politicians, don't understand issues like the debt, issues like the deficit, even the debate about pay-fors. I feel like it's 2021. We have been talking about pay-fors since 2008. We've been talking about the need to pay for things and deficits being bad. I thought we'd won this argument, at least amongst liberals or centrists or Democrats. And yet again, even after Donald Trump came into office, passed an unpaid-for tax cut, we still have Democrats droning on about the need to pay for things that pay for themselves.
I talk a lot. I've even written a book about zombie ideas, things that just should be dead, but they just keep on shambling along and eating people's brains. And fiscal responsibility, of course, is only for Democrats. And the fact that there's now a pretty wide consensus among serious economists that the debt is not a problem, nowhere close to being a problem at current levels, has not, I think, made its way through to the policymaking elite. Within the Biden administration, they get it, but I'm sure that a lot of senators, even on the Democratic side, are still living a decade ago. They still haven't caught on that we've learned something.
So what I thought was cool about that statement, brothers and sisters, like we're fed a lot of stuff about money, spending. Look at your commercials on TV. Most of them about consumption. Most of them are about acquisition. One of the things that was always a hang up with me about cryptocurrency is it an actual asset? And some people say, well, and it was moving that way. But when you start looking at the history of money in the United States, the dollar back in the day was backed by gold standard, right? It was backed by gold standard, and that gold standard made sure that the money was going to be there. And then we moved to fiat currency, which is okay. You have to pay for things with this currency, so you can't pay your mortgage with Bitcoin. You can't pay your health insurance with Ethereum. You can't do that. But you can pay your taxes with dollars. If you have dollars, you're supposed to pay your taxes with dollars. And so you begin to understand a little bit more of what he's saying, because we're talking about long-term understanding of, I want to say, fiscal responsibility, but also fiscal jurisprudence. And I like to throw this out here as much as I can, that I realize in some regards, and this might be a stretch, but when you don't have a lot of money, you become a serious person a lot of times in how you budget. Think about that. You are like, if I think about my mom and dad, think about my grandparents and that, they weren't big spenders. They made sure that the money they spent was on things that was meaningful. Education, make sure I had a good education, things like that. A house, traditional assets. But they were tremendous budgeters. But later on in life, you understand certain aspects of finance, but not necessarily economics. Like, I recently got a letter, and they send these letters to you with these fake checks. I don't know if this happens to you. They send you letters with fake checks. This check was like, you can have this for $2,500, and it's a loan. Now, number one, I didn't ask for it. So number two is, why are you trying to give me money? I don't even know you. I don't even know you. This is part of the economic system. The economic system does, of course, revolve around debt. So you have to have people who are debt. Back in the day, put on your thinking caps. Going back in the day, remember you used to have payday loans? You used to have payday loan. You would borrow the money on a Friday, have to bring back the following Friday, and the interest rate was like 300%. But my point was, you would go to the payday loan place and it'd be packed with people on Friday. And I would sit here. My cousin Jason worked in a payday loan place. I went to pick him up for lunch, and they put the interest rate right up here, right beside. When you fill out your paperwork, the interest rate is right here. It tells you if you don't get the money back in 7 days, the interest rate is 150%. And they give you increments, like ghetto increments, $100, $300. The most you could do was like $500. They literally, brothers and sisters, because this system was so corrupt, and they targeted people who were what? At the other end of the economic spectrum, where they didn't get their money regularly, or they, excuse me, or they had non-traditional jobs, particularly in the military. The military people were dealing with payday loans to the point where they could not pay them back. So $1,000 loan ballooned into $13,000, $14,000 with all the charges and fines and stuff. And unfortunately, they cut that out. But they still target people, understanding that the rubric for good economy for these businesses is to make sure that the economy is bad for you. It's the economy, stupid. If we think back, brothers and sisters, to when they first wanted people to go back to work with no vaccine, with barely any masks, social distancing, wash your hands, who were they targeting? They were targeting the people who would fit under the category of minimum wage to get them back to work. Because the most significant work was done by the people who were leveraged the most. They were compromised the most. They were the people who couldn't say, no, I'm not going to go into work. No, I'm going to find another job. And I thank goodness, brothers and sisters, that the economy has liberated. The stimulus checks, the unemployment allowed people to take a step back during COVID and go, wait a minute, this is not worth my while. Even more so, this is not worth my worth. And understand the aspects of economy. If you got a stimulus check, God bless you. If you got unemployment, God bless you. You got the child earned income credit, God bless you. That's your money anyway. You've been paying into a system and it never paid you back. That's your money anyway. But my point is this, brothers and sisters. Understanding the aspects of economy will help all of us be better. The economy surrounding health, because if you talk about healthcare, you're talking about a big divot in the GDP of the U.S. economy. How can you improve the GDP? Don't have so many people who are sick. That's why you have a push for vaccines. That's why you have a push for social distancing. That's why right now you have companies, corporations arguing, and you just had a mandate just from Joe Biden, good old Joe, Sleepy Joe said what? If you work for a federal agency, you have to be, you know why they're doing that? Because they can't afford people getting sick and making other people sick, because we're not dealing with the flu economy. We're dealing with the COVID economy. So as we think a little bit more, brothers and sisters, I'm going to ask everybody, please delve a little bit more. Delve a little bit more into the aspect of the economy. pick up the money page and look at something, the money page in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or whatever, or wherever you are, Washington Post, Houston Chronicle, wherever you are, look at the money page. And I want to say familiarize yourself not with economic language, but economic actions. And from that, brothers and sisters, you glean a little stuff of how the country works or how it doesn't work. Understanding that the political arguments have less and less to do with you and more about how people can take advantage of the economy. It was clear, when we first had the vaccine and everybody was high and the economy was up. Now we're looking at a situation when the economy is down because people aren't going out as much, because people don't want to be around other people, because people say, hey, I like to go to a restaurant, but doggone it, they deliver, or you got to stop and go. One of the same things, brothers and sisters. So I don't want to be redundant, but I do want to make sure that in this space, when we say it's the economy, stupid, we're not talking to ourselves, we're not talking to people, we're talking to reality. And that reality is connected around so many different things. So many different things. Let me tell you about the economy. I was in Milwaukee. No. I flew to Chicago. I was going to go up to see my brother in Milwaukee. To rent a car, brothers and sisters, from Thursday to Monday. Normally in the past, you get the weekend deal, Thursday to Monday. Brothers and sisters, you might spend $175. Because of the economy surrounding rental cars. And let me break this down to you. Because of the economy surrounding rental cars, that same $175 I would have spent was now $645. And of course, man, I'm nosy Rosie. Why? Because due to COVID, they can't make the chips like they meant. All these new cars have chips in them, microchips that operate everything. So now you can't get production. Now they're making a smaller amount of new cars because of the availability of chips. So now the rental car people are going, we can't get new cars. So they're holding on to their cars longer. Normally they will hold on to a car 25,000, 30 miles. They're now holding on to a car to 90,000 miles. And they don't clean them. And they don't even clean the cars, brothers and sisters. And here's the point, brothers and sisters. Because everybody knows there's money to be made. So it's not like they can go, hey, people, we're so sorry that we don't have the chips. We're going to give you a break. It's not even like, you know what, it's $175. I'll charge you $250. No, almost $660 they're charging us. And nobody worries about it because they think we're just going to pay. But that's the thing. That's the whole scope. We had a comment from Fight the Power Word. Can we throw that up? In order for an enormous amount of wealth to be concentrated in the hands of a few people, there has to be some exploitation. To avoid being exploited, learn how to manage and expand our resources. 100%. 100%. It's the old Ray Charles Prince thing, which is own your masters. When I say own your masters, I mean, yes, in their case, they were talking about music, but I think it was even a lot more, which was own the rights to your own creativity. So the idea now of, Sister Reed's a prime example. Sister Reed, early on, she would bring food past, and she said, wait a minute. She called me one day and said, I'm thinking about doing a food truck. And we talked, and the food truck was a little expensive, but she found a place where she could take her food. She doesn't have to have tremendous overhead. She's not paying for the truck. She realizes the food I buy here, if I buy a little bit more, it's good for the family, but I can buy a little bit more and I can sell this food because the economy, she figured out a place to sell this food where it's popular. She realized there was only one competitor. Their food was whatever is one brand of food. She sells certain, different menus, varying things, desserts, stuff like that. You figured out the economy of selling food in that particular place. Therefore, now you realize, okay, the food has a different purpose other than me eating it. It costs me nothing to eat it. It's a zero sum for me to eat it. But if I take it over here, people will pay a premium for that food. $15 with a drink. So listen, everybody. I'm going to let you go, but I want you to think back to some of the stuff I talked about. Think back to when I talked about being 7, 8 years old with my brother Rick, and we were in that store, and a guy said, "Hey, why don't you get another one? If you get two," I had one. "If you get two, I give you one free." It was a thought then, brothers and sisters. At 7 years old, who's going to drink 3 sodas? That was the thought that made me walk out of there. How, who, where, and when am I going to drink 3 sodas? And that's when I realized games were run on me. And that game was called the economy, and I figured it out later. So everybody, please, I'm not saying check your checkbooks, but I'm saying please take a look at the way business is being done around here. Take a look at this upcoming infrastructure bill. There's a lot in there that has nothing to do with infrastructure. You know, we talk about things. There's a lot of that bill that has to do with education, trying to make sure that public education sticks around another 4 or 5 years. You got to read the tea leaves that are out there, brothers and sisters. I am imploring you to take a look at, of course, economy, which is your household, but also the economy outside of your household. All right, brothers and sisters, let's get to our sponsors right now. Speaking of the economy, you got to talk about managing your money. This is a perfect opportunity. I want you to check out BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. You can call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. Yeah. We had Sister Maxine B. Cade on here, Esquire, and what she tell you? If you have your money in the bank, what are you doing? You're wasting your money. Do you remember that? If you put every money in the bank, you waste your money. She just looked at it based upon the rate of return that the bank gives you for holding your money. There are other places you can get 9, 10%, but we're not asking. Believe me, the universe opens up and gives us information about the economy, how we make money, how we save money, how we invest money. We need to open ourselves up to do that, okay? Now, on the flip, if you're thinking about getting a quality Islamic education at the graduate level and the doctoral level, you need to go to, brothers and sisters, Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Again, that's Bayan Islamic Graduate School. You can go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. I've told you before, they have master's program, Islamic education, which I was able to achieve, alhamdulillah. Or you could do Islamic studies, Islamic leadership, or one of the best programs for Muslim chaplaincy. They have an MDiv, a Master of Divinity in Muslim chaplaincy, for any of you that are thinking about serving the community, whether it's pastoral, whether it's colleges, prisons. They have the premier program. Plus, they have a certificate program. You don't want to miss it. So I am out of here, brothers and sisters. You've been great. I appreciate you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I will see you tomorrow, inshallah. Also, want to give a shout out to my main man, Mo Armour. Mo Armour is in Houston at the White Oak Music Hall. He is taping his comedy special. We don't know what the name of it is, but he's taping his comedy special. So if you guys hit him up on Instagram, things like that, wish him luck. One of Houston's own, of course. Mo Armour was on Allah Made Me Funny tour. So he's little brother. We're trying to send some love and support and du'as to my man. All right, everybody. God bless. Talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.